Spring practice is in the books at the University of Alabama with the annual A-Day game attracting about 65,000 folks on Saturday. We bring in Stephen M. Smith of touchdownalabama.net to help us to break it down. Stephen M., of course, the quarterback position is gaining most of the hype. Jacob Coker is entrenched on the depth chart as the starter, but this is a wide-open competition. You got to see a number of quarterbacks play to varying degrees. Your assessment of what you saw on Saturday, and not just on Saturday, but the reports from spring practice throughout the last 6 weeks.
Well, throughout spring practice, Mark, Jake Coker has done a great job building chemistry with not just the offensive line, but the running backs, the receivers, the entire coaching staff. This is a young man at 6'5", 230 pounds that people forget did not come into Alabama until May of a 2014 offseason. He declared his transfer in January, but did not come in until May. So you talk about when he came in, he roughly had between 2 to 3 months to really learn the system under new offensive coordinator in his first season, that being Lane Kiffin. So when you're jumping from the Atlanta Coast Conference in Florida State under Jimbo Fisher to the Southeastern Conference with Nick Saban, that's a huge gauntlet to jump through, and you're jumping to an NFL mind in Nick Saban and also an offensive coordinator in Lane Kiffin that likes to mix it up. And it's very difficult to process this information as well as, learn the ins and outs and the chemistry of this team within the 2 to 3 month period. So it's very simple why Blake Sims won the job last season from the get-go. But if you look at this season, this spring, Jake Coker much more comfortable. Center Ryan Kelly said that the team has spent more time with Jake Coker. The guys have bonded through going fishing, through going hunting, through watching film together. So Jake Coker much more entrenched with the chemistry of his football team. Now, if you look at the field aspects, the arm strength definitely there. It has grew a lot for Coker. If you look at that left knee, the same knee Coker hurt at Florida State in 2013, that left knee has completely healed. You see the mobility is there. He can throw on the run now. He can go on the naked bootleg. He can roll out the naked bootleg and make passes to receivers in space and open areas and leading them down the field. He's done a great job showcasing leadership this spring, according to head coach Nick Saban. There have been some times where Coker has struggled on what to do, but more times than not, he has shown leadership. As far as the spring game is concerned, Coker 14 for 28 passing, 183 yards with 1 touchdown and an interception. Probably the only struggle I've noticed from Coker this far is his release on the football. The average quarterback releases the ball in 0.3 seconds. With Coker, add an extra 4 seconds. That's 7 seconds it takes for him to release the football. He's got to shorten that up a bit, and some of that is indecisiveness. Some of that is he's taking too long to work through every progression. He's got to be able to see where he wants to go to with the ball, release the ball quickly. And once he gets that aspect of the game down, he's going to be a lot more dynamic as a passer. As of right now, you very well see the arm strength of Jake Coker. I watched him throw just tight rope passes to Ardarius Stewart and Robert Foster all game long. He put the ball on the money for the most part, especially on a 40-yard touchdown pass to Ardarius Stewart to start the game for the first-team offense. As I look at the other quarterbacks right now, Alec Morris has had a productive spring, the junior coming out of Allen, Texas. But with Alec Morris, he was running for his life at the spring game, trying to avoid Alabama's first-team defense. But Morris, the only quarterback that did not have a turnover in the spring game. Morris, 7 of 11 passing for 60 yards. Cooper Bateman, the sophomore out of Murray, Utah, like Alec Morris, basically running for his life in the spring game, had a productive spring. Coach Saban kind of experimenting with him a bit at wide receiver. Little tidbit of information on Cooper Bateman. He ran a 4.5 in high school at Cottonwood. So a very rare athlete. Bateman wants to play quarterback. He's practiced at quarterback for much of the spring. His footwork has gotten a lot better. His vision and mechanics as a passer have greatly improved. But with the absence of Cam Sims at that receiver position, Saban just trying to find different guys that he feels like could fit that role, and seeing that 40 time from Cooper Bateman in high school, Saban tried him at that position. But as of right now, Cooper Bateman will definitely play quarterback, especially with the emergence of Ardarius Stewart and Robert Foster. But Cooper Bateman at the spring game, 7 of 11 passing for 48 yards with an interception. If you look at David Cornwell, the 6'5", 221 redshirt freshman out of Norman North High School in Norman, Oklahoma, had a good spring. Saban continues to rave about his leadership skills. Like Coker, Cornwell battled knee injuries in high school. Cornwell's knee is healed. The mobility is right there. The accuracy is there. The thing that struggles, the thing that gives Cornwell some issues happens to be the ball placement. There are times where Cornwell struggles to pick his spots to attack, but that will come with more time, with more repetition. But Cornwell, a bit of a rough outing on A-Day, 12 of 14 passes, 12 of 24 passes, for 110 yards, 1 touchdown with 2 interceptions. The 2 interceptions came in the first half. He had a couple of nerve jitters, as all quarterbacks would have on A-Day, kind of struggled picking his spots from the field, had a throw in the double coverage that he would love to have back. But in the fourth quarter, he did hook up with Parker Barano for a touchdown. So that was a pleasant sight for David Cornwell. And then rounding out the rear, the hotshot freshman from Corona, California, San Diego High School, none other than Blake Barnett at 6'5", 200 pounds. When this kid took the field, the fans were like, he's tall, but he needs to bulk up. This kid very skinny when he took that field. Had some good moments, Blake Barnett did, but like Cornwell, Bateman, Morris and Bateman, Barnett running for his life. But unlike, Bateman and Morris, Barnett has some wheels on him, so Barnett was able to avoid the rush a bit better than Morris and Bateman could do. But you see the youth where Barnett is concerned, still trying to figure out, how to attack the defense. He did have 2 interceptions in the game, but a strong part. Ended the fourth quarter with a touchdown pass to Ardarius Stewart. As of right now, Jake Coker looks the most ready right now. He's the guy that has built the chemistry with the team. He's shown the leadership needed. Been working with the first team receivers, guys like Chris Black, O.J. Howard, Ardarius Stewart, and Robert Foster. Alabama looks to get Cam Sims back by late August, early September. So Jake Coker, as of right now, presume the guy again, but more so now because he's shown the leadership, because he has the arm strength, just needs to continue cleaning up his delivery, getting that delivery time down, because with an offensive line that is big, Saban's brought the beef back. With that right side of an offensive line, needs to continue to play with a little bit more confidence. They will do so. But as of right now, if Coker can continue cleaning up that release on his passes and with his delivery, I think Coker starts this fall.
And maybe it just took Jake Coker, as you alluded to, a year to get acclimated to the system and also a year to get acclimated to his teammates and the locker room. But definitely a whole lot of stars next to a whole lot of quarterbacks in terms of recruiting rankings. I've never seen anything like it. We see what we see at Ohio State with the 3 quarterbacks, but when you're talking 6 deep with this much hype and blue chip talent on the roster at that position, it's amazing. Let's look at wide receiver here, because I think on the surface people are concerned because you lose the best wide receiver in college football and the top 3 in production, talking about Christian Jones and DeAndre White. But there's definitely skill and talent and athleticism there. What did you see out of that group?
Well, Mark, there's no replacing Amari Cooper, one of the best receivers in college football last season, rewrote the Alabama history books. His two compliments, Christian Jones and DeAndre White, both had great careers at the University of Alabama. But the two guys that I think that could be a really scary tandem next season are Darius Stewart and Robert Foster. Both of these guys are sophomores. And I think the injury to Cam Sims has woken both guys up. Because before Cam Sims went down early this spring with an ACL to his right knee, Cam Sims, the 6'5", 210-pound sophomore out of Louisiana, was tabbed as the next breakout player. He had a good season last year as a freshman. Cam Sims, 7 receptions for 62 yards and a touchdown. Was a willing blocker. You saw the balance, the size, and the body control of Cam Sims. But after his injury, Robert Foster and Darius Stewart, both of these guys really have stepped up this spring to help take the slack off of Chris Black. Darius Stewart in the spring game, 8 catches for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. Robert Foster, 6 catches for 125 yards. Darius Stewart, more so of a speed guy, can really take the top off a defense, can go get it. Great route runner, and very instinctive player coming at that slot position as a slot receiver. You look at Robert Foster, a vertical threat guy at 6'3", roughly 200 pounds, a guy, a great balance and body control. The route running is there. The consistency where his hands are concerned was once an issue, but now he's finally seeming to get that in order. As I mentioned, 6 receptions for 125 yards. Did a great job creating space against Alabama's secondary. High pointing the football well. So as of right now, Robert Foster and Darius Stewart look to be the tandem that could create a lot of buzz heading into the fall. We know what Chris Black is capable of. O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard's gotten bigger. He's got guns on top of guns, Mark. This is a kid that has come in the spring at tight end, has slimmed down, has chiseled up some, has had a fantastic spring. O.J. Howard, through 2 scrimmage games before Alabama's A-Day game, had 3 touchdowns combined in both scrimmages. O.J. wants the football. And offensive coordinator Lane Kiffin is going to get him the football more. But it's not just O.J. Howard. Ty Flurney-Smith, the transfer from Georgia, another tight end that's quietly had a very productive spring, according to Coach Saban. Ty Flurney-Smith playing with a lot more confidence. He's got great hands. He's got good speed, very athletic guy, a good run-blocking tight end. In an Alabama spring game, Ty Flurney-Smith had 5 catches for 46 yards. I'm like, who is this guy? Whoa, hold on here. So you got Ty Flurney-Smith, you got O.J. Howard, Coach Saban looking to work Dakota Ball, 3 catches for 23 yards. So at wide receiver, at tight end, Coach Saban mentioned at his presser after A-Day, he wants to work in more depth at those 2 positions, especially with the losses of guys like Amari Cooper, DeAndre White, Christian Jones at wide receiver, Cam Sims for right now with his knee, where that is concerned, and at tight end where, Alabama doesn't have the big-time run-blocking tight ends that it's used to seeing in times past when it had Michael Williams, Colin Peake, Preston Dowd, Brian Vogler. You now have more athletic tight ends with O.J. Howard and Ty Flurney-Smith, especially with guys that are in the National Football League, with like Jimmy Graham and Rob Gronkowski. The tight end position has definitely changed. You want a guy that's not only going to be able to block, but sometimes you want that freak athlete tight end that can go out there, make receptions in traffic, and have that big body that can go out there, high point the football, and make plays. So Coach Saban really developing some depth at tight end and at wide receiver. But as of right now, the 2 guys that have really emerged this spring as a potent tandem to help with Chris Black and O.J. Howard happens to be Darius Stewart and Robert Foster, as the Crimson Tide await the Robin Ridley and Daylon Charlotte this summer.
All right, Stephen M. Smith, TouchdownAlabama.net, joining us just a couple days after the A-Day game Stephen M., there's one other positional group that I really like to get to, and we could talk defensive line. I think it's going to be the best in college football, or near the best. Ohio State would
No
vie
question
for that
about it. No
award as
question.
well.
Those guys are some freak athletes. Those guys are scary.
Okay, where I really want to go, Stephen M., is to the secondary, because if there was a sore spot on this football team, specifically against Auburn and Ohio State down the stretch, if it, of course, was the secondary. I'm hearing a lot of good things out of you and some other folks that are close to Alabama football about the progression of the secondary, how they've been coached up, how the talent has really come to form. What did we see on Saturday that would make Alabama fans feel better about the DBs?
Well, first off, Mel Tucker has come in quietly and has done a dynamic job with this secondary. You look at, although Cyrus Jones has not played all spring due to a hip surgery, he had a torn cartilage in his hip during the latter part of the 2014 season, and so after the surgery, Cyrus Jones did not participate for much of the spring, but he will be locked into a starting role due to his production last year. Cyrus Jones, 46 tackles, a team high, 13 pass breakups, and 3 interceptions last season. But if you look at the cornerback position, Tony Brown and Marlon Humphrey, the 2 5-star corners from Alabama's 2014 class, both guys are hungry. Tony Brown has had a dynamic spring. He's absorbed the system much more. We know he's a freak athlete. We know he's got great recovery speed, great hands to jam receivers at the line of scrimmage, but he's gotten a lot better at high pointing the football. And in Saturday's spring game, I studied Tony Brown. His position on a lot of these receivers was crisp. He had solid position on a couple of possessions on Robert Foster and on Chris Black, being able to shield them away from the football, break up a couple of passes. I love what I'm seeing out of Tony Brown. And Marlon Humphrey is going to get a lot of time at slot corner this year because of his progression this spring and also the A-Day game itself. Marlon Humphrey had 8 tackles on A-Day. He had 8 tackles, 1 tackle for loss and an interception. And after Marlon Humphrey got this interception mark, the whole secondary just jumped up in the air. They were excited for the redshirt freshman out of Hoover, Alabama. Marlon Humphrey broke on the ball cleanly, got the pick, and just let it all loose on the field. These fans are excited for what this young man can do. Marlon Humphrey, his father, Bobby, was a running back at the University of Alabama and a well-noted one. Bobby Humphrey played for the Crimson Tide from 1986 to 89. So Marlon wants to ride, his spot in Alabama folklore. So a good spring game for Marlon Humphrey. Very proud of him. But the star of the show, in my opinion, in that secondary, happens to be true freshman Ronnie Harrison. This guy looks ready at free safety. Not just free safety, strong safety. This kid, Ronnie Harrison, 6'3", 218 pounds. Just an absolute freak of nature. Had an interception in the spring game in which he comes from the other side of the field, Mark, the other side of the field, and just picks off David Cornwell. He's able to cover so much ground. He has so much range. Gets the interception. Had 3 tackles in the game. Very impressed with Ronnie Harrison. He can be a guy that can see playing time early at that strong safety position as a true freshman. Was very pleased with Maurice Smith, who had a pick 6 in the spring game. Maurice Smith at 6'1", 188 pounds, intercepted Jake Coker and took it to the house for a 51-yard touchdown. How the secondary is doing, Mark? 5 of the 6 turnovers were caused by Alabama's secondary. So that's an indication in itself that Alabama's secondary looks much more improved than what it did last year. Bradley Silva led the bunch with 9 tackles coming from a corner position. Bradley Silva, senior this year. We look for a huge season coming out of him. Coach Saban raves about the leadership he's shown in practice. Silva got burned a lot last season, but this year has homed in not only on his speed, but also on his coverage ability. So Bradley Silver, a guy that Alabama fans look for more from. And also Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson has been moved from cornerback to safety. And this is huge for Alabama because now it has flexibility at that safety spot. You now have Eddie Jackson there, Geno Smith, Maurice Smith, Ronnie Harrison. Of course, like I said, Eddie Jackson, Maurice Smith, Ronnie Harrison, Geno Smith, a lot of flexibility back there. You have a ton of guys that can play that position. Also, Lawrence Hootie Jones, excuse me, that's the name that I was trying to get out there. But with Eddie Jackson moved to that safety spot, he's a natural hard hitter. He's a rover in the secondary. He's an opportunist, a guy that can be able to find the football. Doesn't have elite speed, but has enough speed to really play the ball in the air well, create interceptions, create pass breakups, just create big-time plays on the back end of that defense. So Mel Tucker has quietly come in and has done a solid job with Alabama's secondary. He's basically taken this group back to basics all spring, working on form tackling, working on being physical, working on playing the ball, just working on not getting beat deep. Not getting beat deep, taking the inside, taking the angles, being physical against the run as well as the pass. And, of course, head coach Nick Saban, his focus all season, his focus all spring has been the ball. Offensively, protect the football. Defensively, create turnovers. And during the spring game, Alabama's defense did its part because it created 6 turnovers.
All right, Stephen M. We will have, what about 4.5 months to break down personnel. So I really wanted to get that quarterback, wide receiver, and defensive back after this 8A game, and appreciate the breakdown as always. I think it's going to be extremely interesting because, as we've noted before, there are huge holes and gaps in experience on this roster, but there are no gaps when it comes to 5- and 4-star talent. So there's no question there are tons of players vying for playing time and starting positions, and it starts at quarterback, but it runs through the entire team, and there are question marks. And when I say question marks, I don't think there's going to be any issue with production in the end, but there's going to be question marks in regards to who those players are going to be that are going to be the true impact guys at most of these spots. But the front seven on defense is locked down, so I definitely wanted to address the secondary. And again, we, of course, will be in touch many times between now and fall camp to break down some personnel. So, Stephen M., we appreciate the time, man.
No problem, Mark. It's always a joy being right here with you talking some Alabama football.